The goal of this presentation is to provide a deeper understanding of the concept of ideology and the ways in which systems of ideas and beliefs are circulated and produced through technological means. We will use various entertainment media artifacts to delineate the historical context of ideological analysis and the differing ways ideology is understood within structuralist and culturalist frameworks. Furthermore, we will use these to demonstrate the usefulness and limitations of approaching media through an ideological lens. To begin, we ask the question, what is ideology? For the purpose of this presentation, we will focus on the evolution of ideology from its early stages to more contemporary viewpoints. Although the concept of media and ideology is complex, there's a general consensus by media scholars that media texts portray various ideologies and that they are not neural ideological tools. However, perspectives from media scholars vary in how these underlying messages are portrayed and whose ideologies these messages serve. We will use the works of Albarrán, Althusser, Deutsche, Gramsci, Turner, and Horkheimer and Adorno to demonstrate the central thesis and key claims of ideological analysis. The ideological perspectives of the assigned readings fall between the structuralist and culturalist frameworks. Structuralism and culturalism are two distinctive theories that serve to conceptualize the complexities of its relationship with society. In the structuralist paradigm, the concept of ideology is that hegemonic ideologies are imposed from above, and that one can only live and experience through the categories, classifications, and frameworks of the culture. While the culturalist paradigm believes that the hegemonic ideologies are not imposed on society, but rather society relies on the authenticity of experience, which drives the development of culture from the bottom up. While the concept of ideology has evolved, the notion of influence through power and domination has been constant. This power to influence society can be seen from early theories through to recent works. The variations and critiques to the theories can be explored by asking the following three questions. First, let's address the notion of power. Early Marxist and structuralist theorists, such as Louis Althusser, believe it is not possible to escape ideology because it is omnipresent and its influence can be seen from politics to entertainment. Althusser's theory hinges on the idea that economics drives the production of culture. This is highlighted in Albarrán's article Media and Economics, which highlights the changing media industry and how technology, regulation, globalization, and sociocultural developments are resulting in large conglomerates controlling various levels of production and distribution of media texts. This power enables them to impose the belief of the dominant class on the rest of society. Gramsci's notion of power and ideologies is more contemporary than Althusser's. Gramsci takes a post-structuralist view and argues that power can be primarily exercised at the level of culture and ideologies, instead of using force to impose ideological beliefs. Gramsci defines this type of nonviolent influence over society as hegemony. Deutsche identifies the most recent shift in ideology from traditional structuralist beliefs to a more culturalist perspective. He explains that society lives in media, as opposed to previous theories that state that society lives with media. His notion of power hinges on the idea that we as individuals and as a collective have control over our reality. Moving from the concept of power within ideology, we will now address the notion of dominance. According to Althusser, dominance comes from the use of force and that economics drives the production of culture. His theories are considered the dominant ideology, where hegemonic ideologies are imposed from an overarching system and dominant class. More specifically, Althusser claims that one can only live and experience one's conditions in and through the categories, classifications, and frameworks of the culture. Think of China's communist regime, where media is controlled in order to portray the ideals and beliefs of the overarching political system. This example also highlights the limitations to Althusser's theory because the use of political force does not work in traditionally democratic countries like the United States. Dominance is often gained through what Althusser calls the ideological state apparatus, which serves to further assign categories to all aspects of society. Althusser defines the ideological state apparatus, or the ISA, as realities which present themselves to the immediate observer in the form of distinct and specialized institutions, like a religious system with its different churches and beliefs, a family unit, or radio and television communications. Man is an ideological animal by nature, which means we all exist within the confines of categories assigned by our society's culture. Individual beliefs, belief systems, and personal dogma assign people to social and ideological categories, and these social categories function as ways to identify certain individuals. If someone classifies themselves as a Republican, we can note their worldview and how it differs from that of a Democrat. Can individuals function outside of their category? Yes and no. According to Althusser's theory, to exist between two categories, or outside the box, would result in a newly created category, an ideological construct of its own. People who exist outside the box create a brand new box for themselves. Put simply, ideology is responsible for transforming individuals into subjects. Different ideologies interpolate individuals into their respective categories. In the context of media studies, entertainment media is responsible for interpolating subjects into very specific categories that their audience members will understand. Kim Kardashian is an American reality TV star known for her famous family and beauty. Here she is featured on the cover of Star magazine while pregnant in a candid photograph. In this instance, the subject that is Kim Kardashian is functioning on a number of different interpolated realms. As audience members, we interpolate Kim into the celebrity ISA, a category that brings with it a number of expectations. Kim is expected to be healthy, curvy, and flawless. While it is completely natural for a woman to experience weight gain during a pregnancy, the expectations Kim normally adheres to are violated by her pregnancy weight gain. This violation in the celebrity ISA grants permission from the media and public to scrutinize this change in image and result in fat shaming. Differing slightly from Althusser's theory, Gramsci's theory expanded the notion of dominance. Gramsci argues that dominance pertains to the idea of using cultural leadership to obtain consent of society. He argues that the dominant class makes their beliefs and ideals appear completely natural in order to gain societal consensus. This is especially evident in popular culture. Let's look at Justin Bieber, an iconic image in popular culture. Bieber is a Canadian singer who was discovered on YouTube and was quickly molded to fit the image of a rising young pop star. It wasn't soon after his discovery that many young boys were getting Bieber haircuts and young girls knew all the lyrics to his songs. Gramsci's notion of hegemony pertains to the idea that North American society perpetuates the ideology of the popular. In Bieber's case, critical media theory argues that the desired image of popular is made to look normal to society. This perspective is further conveyed in Horkheimer and Adorno's 2006 article, The Culture Industry, which portrays the essence of mass society being blindly coerced to embrace the ideals of consumerism constructed by the culture industry. The media continually works to secure hegemony, and within the media culture industry, the controlling groups, the ones with power and influence, are shaping the popular culture ideals. Horkheimer and Adorno argue that within the culture industry, the subject matter and the elements of it are from the same apparatus as the jargon, which is claimed to be from the same influencing, controlling groups. Because of the mediated content being produced and disseminated by the dominant class, over time society accepts the messages as normal, and this helps to influence the ideals, values, and behaviors over time. Gramsci tokened this type of nonviolent influence over society as hegemony. Hegemony explains the influence of media in contemporary societies. Within the media, ideology refers to the ideas behind a media text. What do the producers want the viewers to think or feel? Within society, the process of hegemony constructs the accepted ideas and values. The dominant class essentially creates and rules the ideas and values because they are mediating the media. Over time, society comes to accept the messages as normal, and eventually, these messages influence the formation of our ideals and values. While power and dominance are common themes in early structuralist and post-structuralist theories, the notion of ideological struggles started to take shape through the concept of the term counter-hegemony. Counter-hegemony refers to attempts to dismantle or contest hegemonic power. This occurs when a member of a subgroup or subordinated class resists the influence of the dominant class. Within entertainment media, there is a constant push and pull between the dominant group and those who wish to dismantle their power. When counter-hegemony begins to ripple through a society, it can lead to ideological struggles as the dominant power is threatened. In an effort to demonstrate how ideological analysis in entertainment media and the consent to the dominant order is maintained, we look at The Truman Show, a 1998 American satirical social science fiction fantasy film. In the movie, Truman is a man whose life is fake. He lives in a big studio with hidden cameras everywhere, and all his friends and people around him are actors who play their roles in the most popular TV series in the world, The Truman Show. Truman thinks he is an ordinary man with an ordinary life and has no idea about how he is exploited. Until one day, he learns everything.
Coming to you now from the largest studio ever constructed, it's The Truman Show! What if you were watched every moment of your life? What if everyone you knew was pretending? What if your world was make-believe?
Cue the sign. While the world he inhabits is counterfeit, there's nothing fake about Truman himself.
A lot of strange things have been happening.
Stand by ring cam.
Is he looking at us?
Does he think he knows?
I think I'm mixed up in something. Something big.
We accept the reality with which we're presented.
It's like the whole world revolves around me. Everybody seems to be in on it. I'm going away for a while. I'm not in on it, Truman, because the last thing that I would ever do is lie to you.
Fade up music. That's our hero shot by now.
Truman, where are you going?
You can do it.
How do we stop him?
Give me some lightning.
That's the best you can do! Cut transmission! I like your pen. I was wondering that myself.
In The Truman Show, the producers tell the actors that they must continue to play their parts, especially as Truman becomes suspicious. As long as the actors agree and participate, as long as they consent, the dominant order is maintained. As mentioned earlier, mediated content is produced and disseminated by the dominant class, and over time society accepts the messages as normal, which helps to influence the ideals, values, and behaviors of the overarching system. This is illustrated well in The Truman Show, as Truman is made to believe he is living a normal life. The producer states it perfectly: we accept the reality with which we are presented. This statement, though scripted, demonstrates an understanding and acknowledgement of the control a dominant group can have over subgroups in society. By controlling the creation, production, and dissemination of media, the dominant group is able to influence beliefs, values, and behaviors, and ideally, achieve hegemony. In The Truman Show, the producer and the team are doing just that for Truman himself, essentially manufacturing his beliefs of reality and his ideals. The dominant order can also be examined in a more contemporary example, looking to the discussion of the female body image and the ideal body type. The culture industry has successfully shifted popular opinion into believing that the thinner women become, the more ideal they are. With a tiny waist, large bust, and legs for days, critics argue that Barbie has set unattainable expectations for the female physique. Marketing for these dolls is geared towards young girls, and therefore sets the standard for what these children think they should look like. The precedent is then set by the dominant order, which establishes that all women must be skinny in order to fit the norm. Here we see a brand new version of Barbie, an artist's rendition of what the iconic doll would look like were she an average 19-year-old girl. Artist Nicolay Lamb found that, scaled up to human size, Barbie dolls would have the unrealistic measurements of 36, 18, 33, compared with the typical 19-year-old girl's 32, 31, 33. When these societal norms are created, what happens when people in society question them? How can ideological analysis be used to explain how power is continuously challenged and destabilized through entertainment media? In the Barbie example, consent is challenged when Nicolay Lamb shows society just how unrealistic Barbie's body is. Through comparison, he hails into question what Barbie represents, an unattainable ideal. Lamb is no longer participating in the shared consent of the idealized female and is starting a counter-hegemonic movement by using his research and design and sharing it through entertainment media. We can also look back to the Truman Show example. Once Truman realizes his world is constructed and he starts to question what the dominant class is conveying as normal, Truman starts a counter-hegemonic movement where he tries to break free and escape the constraints of his constructed life. The producer quoted, "While the world he inhabits is counterfeit, there is nothing fake about Truman himself. This is true in the real world as well. As people start to question ideologies, counter-hegemonic movements are experienced. Counter-hegemonic movements are especially evident with the influx of social media sites and blogs, which enable society to participate in the creation of culture by questioning the messages conveyed by corporations, government, and industry leaders. These new technologies encourage participation and decentralization, ultimately weakening nationalism. Occupy Wall Street, a protest movement that began on September 17, 2011 in New York's financial district, and the Arab Spring, a revolutionary wave of demonstrations and protests, used social media to generate counter-hegemonic political movements. Through ideological analysis, we can see how power is continuously challenged and destabilized through entertainment media. Whether it is Truman questioning his existence in a perfectly constructed life and starting a movement to escape the control of the producer, or the participants of Occupy Wall Street or the Arab Spring creating a movement to question the dominant class's ideals, it is apparent that society believes they are in control of their reality, and when they realize they are not, they question or create counter-hegemonic movements, which destabilizes and challenges power of those involved. Similar to Gramsci's counter-hegemonic theory, Deutze also talks about the constant struggle and negotiation we experience as a result of living in media rather than living with media. In this context, our society governed by media has become, like every single website, permanently under construction. In this new world, we do not give up freedom, but freedom should be understood in relation to media and how that affects our personality. The rise of new media such as social media sites, blogs, and smartphones allow us to become artists and creators of culture. Deutze believes that this evolution gives us the privilege to use media to make art of life. By living in media, society is also afforded the opportunity to use their technological existence to facilitate their counter-hegemonic movement. Examining entertainment media through an ideological lens highlights its benefits in addition to its limitations. One of the benefits is that it makes us aware that the cultural values with which we make sense of the world are a tissue of conventions that have been handed down from generation to generation by the members of the culture with which we are a part. It reminds us that there is nothing natural about our values. They are social constructs that not only vary enormously over the course of time, but differ radically from culture to culture. This influence of ideology can be seen within media through the analysis of specific news websites. In the United States, the underlying ideological system of Fox News is the base from which everything is produced and posted. It could be argued that the same is true for the Huffington Post, which sits on the other side of the political spectrum. The news and messaging being produced for these sites isn't objective. The context for all news shared is the underlying ideological beliefs held by not only the media owners, but also the journalists. However, other theorists would argue the two main limitations of viewing culture through the ideological lens is ahistoricism and formalism. Foucault's discussion highlights the essence of ahistoricism, which refers to a lack of concern related to history, historical development, or tradition. He illustrates this through the analysis of distribution and operation of power. For Foucault, ideology is not the proper method with which to address organization of time and space related to power. There is no capacity within the framework of ideology to look at the elements that Foucault argues are intrinsic to the distribution of power. Science fiction does an excellent job of blurring the boundaries between time and space. The 1993 film Jurassic Park depicts a park created by John Hammond, a character who takes no responsibility for the faults and flaws that arise. In this film, while the dinosaurs were cloned for the purpose of this mythological park, the notion of humans and dinosaurs existing in tandem is unheard of, unless it takes place in a movie. Both species of life are millions of years apart in reality. Jurassic Park argues the notion that history has no relevance or importance when it comes to the decision-making of modern life. From a formalist perspective, it is not the content of the film that drives this ideology forward, it is the form it takes. The boundaries are blurred significantly, and yet the ideology behind the film still persists, the ideology of science. Ideological analysis discusses the notion of formalism, which conforms to a doctrine of strict adherence such as religion, and uses the foundations of semiotics to interpret media text. This implies nothing is natural and that our social values are constructed. For example, YouTube is a media site that proves difficult when studied through the lens of ideology. The amount of varying content that is uploaded cannot be analyzed or viewed under a dominant framework. There's no social or political consensus on YouTube. YouTube is an example of where a counter-hegemonic movement could start, whereas television can be studied through this lens as it is said to be controlled by the dominant class. Therefore, as technology continues to change, so too the way we explore media through the strict constructs of ideological analysis. Ideology, through its wavering theories and conceptual advances, is still considered the single most important conceptual category in cultural studies. In the case of entertainment media, various ideologies are transmitted through this dominant order as a means to convey specific messages and societal ideals. With time, the constant exposure to entertainment media can assist in forming and influencing the ideological beliefs and values of society or groups within society. From the everyday enjoyment of entertainment media to direct implementation of society to recent notions of a media society, ideological analysis provides a view of power, economy, and society, and focuses on how these work together within entertainment media to influence societal views, beliefs, and behaviors over time.